Welcome to God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson. Reach him at GodsFiveMinutes@gmail.com. Now, here's Ed Wilson with God's 5 Minutes.
Hello, friends. The prophet Isaiah, whose works occupy such a significant place in the Old Testament, has been called a gospel prophet because so much of his writings have to do with the ministry of the coming Messiah. Micah was his contemporary, and while his book is far smaller than Isaiah's, yet there are things in it that prove he had the same vision as his great companion. An example is Micah 2:12, which reads, "I will surely assemble, O Jacob, all of thee. I will surely gather the remnant of Israel. I will put them together as a sheep of Bozrah, as a flock in the midst of their fold. They shall make great noise by reason of the multitude of men. The breaker is come up before them. They have broken up and have passed through the gate and are gone out by it. And their king shall pass before them, and the Lord on the head of them." These words have their only real fulfillment in the office and workings of Jesus Christ. He is the breaker who has come up before us. Put another way, he is our trailbreaker, for he is the firstborn of many brethren, and he has opened the pathway before us. The verses give us a picture of some dark and gloomy prison with high walls, massive gates, and barred windows where the souls of people the Lord loves are held. There they sit, hopelessly in the shadow of death, bound in irons of affliction and sorrow, when there comes one mysterious figure whom the prophet could not yet describe as we can today. And at his coming the gates fly apart, and the chains drop from their hands, and the captives have hope and courage surging up inside. They gather themselves together into a triumphant band, and following the breaker who has snapped the barriers they could not, go out of the dreadful captivity with songs and everlasting joy upon their heads. Their deliverer has made them free and set them on the march to the home of their fathers. The breaker has gone up before them. They have broken and passed through the gate and are gone out by it. Isn't that the way salvation works? Too many people don't really grasp the full nature of the bondage in which they're held, feel the misery, don't grasp the reasons why their lot is so hard, much less where deliverance may lie. The problem is worse when those in the bitter chains think their lot is the way life should be, as for everyone, can be no better at all. To be in that condition is to be like the French nobles who were imprisoned during the French Revolution. They would keep up a ghastly mockery of the gaiety of their former lives with its social niceties and light-hearted witticisms, bowing and curtsying, wrapping pretty flowers around their prison bars, and pretending to carry on life as they had before. This, while day after day the death carts came to the gates, the jailer stood at the door of the dungeons with his dreadful list in his hand, calling the names of those who were that day to go beneath the guillotine. Could that be you, friend? Do you lie chained to the floor with unbreakable vices, shameful guilt, or dark hatreds? Jesus' words, in their very simplicity, carry conviction to every heart. He that committeth sin is a servant of sin. Every one of you has felt at some time the handcuffs chafing at your wrists, just when you would love to stretch out your hands to do good. There are so many ways to be tied to sin in this world. Sometimes it's by false teachings, sometimes phony so-called psychological explanations that try to explain and justify the mold on the prison walls and the rats at our feet. Sometimes it's fear of losing friends and worldly companions. Sometimes simply being unwilling to face the past, to go to someone and say, "I'm sorry, please forgive me." The truth is, the dark walls of the prison surround us all. The scriptures say we're all the captives of sin. Thank God for the breaker who shatters the gates that hold us in. By his death, he has made a way for the guilt to be all washed from needy hearts beneath his blood. By his living spirit, he is willing to give each of us power to break loose from the inability to resist sin and the devil, a life filled with grace and light and hope and peace in his presence. Have you talked to him today?
You have been listening to God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson. Reach him by email at GodsFiveMinutes@gmail.com. Tune in next time to hear more encouraging thoughts from God's Word on God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson.
If you live within the broadcast area of KNEO Radio, we have a podcast just for you. The KNEO Community Connection keeps your finger on the pulse of what's coming up in the four-state area, telling you about upcoming events you don't want to miss, organizations in our communities doing great work, and conversations with the dynamic citizens who are behind it all. There's a lot going on around you that you don't want to miss. This is Luke Taylor. Join me each week as we talk about what's happening with the people who are making it happen. Brought to you by KNEO Radio 91.7 FM and the Sky High Podcast Network. Subscribe today wherever you get your podcasts.